The question is, in which of the following form most carbon dioxide is transported in blood? Dear friends, remember carbon dioxide is a waste gas. Carbon dioxide which is formed as a result of biological oxidation of respiratory substrate in the body tissue is taken through the blood from the body tissue into the lungs for its elimination. Carbon dioxide is taken in three forms. One, in the form of carbonic acid, that is in a state of solution by plasma, which is going to be around 7 to 9%. The second is it is taken in the form of bicarbonates. When you talk about bicarbonates, it is taken in the form of sodium bicarbonate and potassium bicarbonate. The carbon dioxide enters into the RBC in the presence of an enzyme carbonic anhydrase, which is fastest known reacting enzyme on earth. Convert carbon dioxide into carbonic acid, which immediately breaks into bicarbonate ions, and these bicarbonate ions are going to be combining with potassium inside the RBC to be transported as potassium bicarbonate, and they also combine with sodium in the plasma and taken as sodium bicarbonate, and it accounts for about 70%. The question is, which of the following form most carbon dioxide is transported in the blood? Naturally the answer is bicarbonate. The question is, if the average respiratory rate in an adult healthy individual is 15, what will be the volume of air inspired per minute? What this question means? It refers to minute volume of respiration. That means how much of air is taken in or given out in a duration of 1 minute. It is like cardiac output. While talking about cardiac output, I told you cardiac output is determined by two factors. One is heart rate and the other one is stroke volume. In the same way, minute volume of air is also determined by two factors. They are namely, one is the tidal volume, which is like stroke volume. The second one is respiratory rate. Here in the question, respiratory rate in an adult healthy individual is given as 15, and tidal volume we know as 500. So if we multiply 15 with 500, it comes to 7,500 milliliters. Thereby the answer is 7.5 liters, that is option 1. Now let us move on to the next question. Acute chest pain due to lack of enough oxygen supply to myocardial tissue is a sign of option 1 heart failure, option 2 cardiac arrest, option 3 heartburn, option 4 angina. So what is the question? Acute chest pain due to lack of enough oxygen supply to myocardial tissue is a sign of. Myocardial tissue refers to cardiac muscle fibers which represent the wall of the heart. And as a result, what happens? The lack of oxygen supply is going to affect the tissue and they get tired. It is going to cause severe pain in the left shoulder that radiate into the arm also. We call this as angina or angina pectoris. If it is not taken care of, it can lead to myocardial infarction, that is heart attack. So option 4 is the answer. Let us look into the other 3 options also. heart failure. Dear friends, you have heard of the word like failure of organ. What do we mean by failure of an organ? Failure of an organ to perform its function to the capacity is failure of organ. If heart fails to perform its function to its capacity, you call it as heart failure. So heart failure and myocardial infarction or heart attack are different. So also cardiac arrest. Cardiac arrest is nothing but stoppage of heartbeat. The option 3 is quite interesting, heartburn. Dear friends, don't be under impression heartburn relates to heart. Heartburn is a term that is going to be used for gastric trouble. Gastric trouble is the one which is going to be related to the stomach, and this causes epigastric pain and burning sensation in the epigastric region where heart is located. Normally the patient may feel that he has a problem with the heart. It is nothing to do with heart, it is not heart problem, it is gas problem. Now we go to the next question. The process of expelling of urine from the bladder through the urethra is called. There are 4 options. Option 1, dysuria. Option 2, nocturia. Option 3, micturition. Option 4, uremia. What is dysuria? Painful urination is called dysuria. It is a symptom that is seen in case of renal calculi. Renal calculi is nothing but kidney stones. Remember, when you talk about renal calculi, normally 2 major types of renal calculi we mention. One is calcium stones made up of calcium oxalate. Most of the calculi are calcium stones made up of calcium oxalate. The second type is uric acid stones. In addition to this, rarely we also find what is called cystine stones and struvite stones. Nocturia, very interesting term. In case of diabetics, during night time they wake up 3 or 4 times, even more times for passing urine. We call this voiding of urine during night time more than normal number of times as nocturia. Option 3, micturition. Micturition relates to voiding of urine. The question is the process of expelling of urine from the bladder through the urethra. So option 3 is the answer. Now let me look into option 4, uremia. Uremia relates to excess of urea in the blood plasma. Uremia is going to be seen in case of renal failure or kidney failure. The maximum amount of urea that can be present in the blood plasma is around 20 milligrams per deciliter. In case of uremia, it is going to exceed. Now we move on to the next question. Chylomicrons are option 1, droplets of fatty acids and glycerol that move into intestinal mucosa. Option 2, non-digestive enzyme secreted by intestinal mucosa. Option 3, hormones that inhibit the release of gastric juice. Option 4, small protein coated fat globules which are transported into lacteals in the villi. Earlier I have discussed and mentioned about chylomicrons. Remember, when you look into the option 4, it is nothing but small protein coated fat globules which are transported into lacteals in the villi. That is the answer. We know lacteals are nothing but lymphatic vessels present in the villi with blind end that are associated with absorption of digested fat as chylomicron and also transportation. Let us look into the other options. Droplet of fatty acid and glycerol that move into intestinal mucosa. They are called as micelles. Non-digestive enzymes secreted by intestinal mucosa, very important. I hope all of you know the non-digestive enzyme of intestinal mucosa or succus entericus is nothing but enteropeptidase. It is also called enterokinase, and it is this enzyme which is going to activate trypsinogen into trypsin. Option 3, hormones that inhibit the release of gastric juice. Gastrointestinal hormones include gastrin, enterogastrin, secretin, cholecystokinin, which is also called pancreozymin, villikinin, all this. Hormone that inhibit the release of gastric juice is enterogastrin, whereas the hormone that promote the release of gastric juice is gastrin. Except for gastrin, which is secreted by endocrinocytes present in the mucosa of the gastric glands of the stomach, that are going to actually release into the blood. Other gastrointestinal hormones are secreted by mucosa of intestine that include secretin, cholecystokinin, enterokinin, villikinin. Now we move on to the next question. Trachea, also called windpipe, divides distally into right and left primary bronchi at the level of options: 3rd thoracic vertebra, 7th cervical vertebra, 5th thoracic vertebra, 7th thoracic vertebra. Remember, the answer is 5th thoracic vertebra. I want to tell you here, trachea is also called windpipe. It is around 4.5 inch long tube which proximally is going to be connected to larynx, which is called as voice box, where vocal cords are located. Distally it divides into primary bronchi which enters into the lungs, undergo further branches into secondary, tertiary bronchi, then they become bronchioles. Except for bronchioles, other bronchioles and bronchi are supported by hyaline cartilaginous rings. Remember, hyaline cartilaginous rings are C-shaped rings that help in maintaining the shape and form of the trachea, bronchi and early bronchioles. Now we move on to the next question. In cardiac output of 5250 ml per minute with heart rate 75, the stroke volume is. By this time, dear students, already you know how to calculate this. Earlier I told you cardiac output is equal to heart rate multiplied by stroke volume. Here you are going to find out the stroke volume. So stroke volume is equal to cardiac output divided by heart rate. So the answer is 70 milliliters. Now we move on to the next question. The question is, renin secreted by cells of afferent arteriole of juxtaglomerular apparatus stimulate adrenal cortex to secrete aldosterone that promotes? It's a fine question. Remember, juxtaglomerular apparatus are formed by fusion of afferent arteriole with distal convoluted tubule. The cells of afferent arteriole are going to be called as juxtaglomerular cells that secrete a hormone called renin, and the distal convoluted tubule which is going to attach to this is made up of the columnar cells which is called macula densa. Renin is a hormone, R-E-N-I-N. This spelling is very important because we also know about an enzyme called R-E-N-N-I-N, renin, which is found in gastric juice that help in digestion of milk in the stomach of infants. This renin hormone induces the release of hormones of adrenal cortex, aldosterone. Aldosterone is going to act on the loop of Henle, especially the ascending limb of Henle made up of thin and thick loop of Henle that help in reabsorption of sodium and water. So, the option 1 is the answer. Reabsorption is also called resorption. Now we move on to the next question. Read the statement A and B. Statement A, the mucosal cells of intestinal villi are brush border cells. Statement B, secretion of brush border cells and goblet cells is succus entericus. Let us come to statement A. The mucosal cells of intestinal villi are brush border cells. What do we mean by brush border? If we are going to find the free surface of the cell, the plasma membrane showing foldings, we call that as brush border, and these foldings are called microvilli. So, presence of microvilli, we are going to use the word brush border. At two places you are going to use the term brush border, one in the intestinal villi and other in proximal convoluted tubule. So, statement A is correct. Secretion of brush border cells and goblet cell is succus entericus. Remember, succus entericus is an intestinal juice and it is a collective term which is going to be used for secretion by brush border cells and goblet cells. Now, let us also know what are these goblet cells. Mucus secreting unicellular glands are called as goblet cells. Both statement A and B are correct. Thereby, option 1 is the answer. Now we come to the next question. The partial pressure of oxygen is almost same in. Remember, partial pressure refers to pressure exerted by a particular gas in mixture of gases. Partial pressure exerted by oxygen in mixture of gases is partial pressure of oxygen. Partial pressure of oxygen is almost same in option 1, atmospheric air and body tissue. It can't be an answer because atmospheric air has large amount of oxygen. Alveolar air and body tissue. Remember, body tissue carries minimum partial pressure of oxygen, which is going to be 40 millimeters mercury. When we come to the option 3, deoxygenated blood and body tissue. Deoxygenated means less oxygen, and there is always the oxygen concentration in the deoxygenated blood and body tissue is going to be almost same. Therefore, option 3 is the answer. Oxygenated blood is going to have around 95 millimeters mercury, whereas body tissue has partial pressure of 40 millimeters mercury. Deoxygenated blood has 40 millimeters mercury, and in alveolar air it is 105 millimeters mercury. So answer is option 3. Now we move on to next question. Which of the following is least likely to happen when there is excessive loss of fluid from the body? So it relates to dehydration. In case of dehydration, if it is not corrected, it can even be fatal. But we have wonderful internal mechanism to maintain the body fluid. Now let us look into the options. Which of the following is least likely to happen when there is excessive loss of fluid from the body? Activation of osmometer in the body. Remember, whenever there is going to be severe loss of fluid, it is osmoreceptors of the body which are going to be activated. So that is not an option. Release of vasopressin from neurohypophysis. I hope all of you know vasopressin is also called antidiuretic hormone. It is going to be released whenever the water level in the body, that is fluid in the body, is going to become abnormally low. Remember, vasopressin is secreted by hypothalamus of the brain, temporarily stored in pars nervosa, which is a part of posterior pituitary. From there it is taken to collecting tubule of the kidney, and it is going to help in reabsorption of water to increase the body fluids. So that is not an answer. Option 3, reabsorption of water from renal tubule. When you talk about reabsorption of water from renal tubule, remember juxtamedullary nephron, where loop of Henle are very long and they are associated with reabsorption of water. Even option 3 is not an answer. Release of atrial natriuretic factor. Remember, whenever body fluid is going to increase, in response to this, pressure in the atria increases, and this is going to make atrial natriuretic factor to release, which is a vasodilator, and as a result it is going to bring down the blood pressure, and thereby it is going to bring down glomerular filtration rate. And option 4 is therefore is the right answer. Now we move on to the next question. Column of Bertini is. Options are the tubule formed by joining of several collecting ducts in the kidney. Option 2, minute vessels from peritubular capillaries that run parallel to Henle's loop forming U shape. Option 3, a network of blood capillaries and Bowman's capsule. Option 4, the cortex that extends between the medullary pyramids. Now let us look into this option. Remember, simple, column of Bertini is another term for renal column. It is nothing but extended renal cortex between the renal pyramids. So the answer must be option 4, the cortex that extend between medullary pyramids. Now let us look into other options. Option 3, a network of blood capillaries and Bowman's capsule. Already you know this is called renal corpuscle or Malpighian corpuscle or Malpighian body. Option 2, the minute vessels from peritubular capillaries that run parallel to Henle's loop forming U shape. It is nothing but vasa rectae, which are well developed and get associated with the loop of Henle of juxtamedullary nephrons. Option 1, The tubule formed by joining of several collecting ducts in the kidney. It is nothing but it is called duct of Bellini, and in the book the term duct of Bellini is not given. Please remember, collecting duct join to form duct of Bellini, and duct of Bellini in turn open into renal calyx, and that part is called as area cribrosa. Now we move on to the next question. Choose the incorrect statement. Option 1. The duct of gallbladder that joins the hepatic duct is called cystic duct. This is correct statement, thereby it is not our answer. The number of incisors found in permanent set of teeth in human are 8. Remember, permanent dentition, incisors 2/2. Remember, dental formula always represent 1/2 of the upper jaw and 1/2 of the lower jaw. 2/2 means it represents 4 into 2, 8. Thereby option 2 is also correct statement, so it is not our answer. Option 3. Salivary amylase is active at slightly acidic pH. Yes, it is active at 6.8, which is less than 7, so slightly acidic. Option 4. Renin is found in gastric juice of infant stomach, which helps in the digestion of milk protein. Dear friends, look into the spelling of the word renin. R-E-N-N-I-N is a milk curdling enzyme found in the gastric juice of infant stomach. Here the word is renin. It is a hormone secreted by juxtaglomerular cells of the kidney. So answer is